Because, the StreamYard, I don't know exactly what I'm doing. Hi, hello, live audiences out there throughout the world. Maybe trying to watch the end of a White Sox game. Why are you doing that? Please don't. Please focus on these five people here right now, because it's probably going to be a more rewarding experience than continuing to get your head beaten in by the team on the south side of Chicago that we know and love. We know too well, which is why it's hurting us right now, and why I've called an emergency post-game live whatever therapy session. Quick fact before I just turn it over to everyone else so that they can talk and do not have to listen to me. White Sox are on the verge of falling back below 400 winning percentage. Yes, you didn't think that was a number that was possible as a winning percentage. We said it early in the season, but yeah, we're back there again. Below 400 if things play out the way the rest of this game goes, and they will also be tied for the 10th worst team, projecting to the 10th worst team in the 123 years of White Sox history. That, by the way, is not good, in case you need me as an expert to help you with that. Right now, we have on our live broadcast throughout the entire planet, all you fans out there wanting to hear about the Chicago White Sox, we're here to tell you about them. Crystal O'Keefe, Malachi Hayes, Sam Sherman, Dr. Sam, Ryan, Tina, she's here with us. It's Christina Erdo as well. And who knows who else will crash this? We might make the Brady grid so small you can't see any of us. You will just hear cussing. Don't throw a flag. Okay. Well, you know what? Rather than just throw it to the floor, I'm going to let the doctor himself, I'm going to let the man who sort of triggered all of this, even though I guess I'd been talking about a post-game podcast. Oh, he made it just a little bit more urgent and live. It's Dr. Sherman. Sam, hey, talk. Hey, it's good to see you again. Sorry we have to meet under these circumstances, but tell me how you're feeling right now.
Yeah. No, I mean, we were talking for just a couple seconds before we started recording, but nice to see everybody, first of all. Yeah, this whole season has been, in the last couple of years, have been anywhere from frustration to honestly moving into that area of just like apathy. We had a podcast last year, the year before, where I had kind of said that I just was having a hard time seeing the point of being like a White Sox fan, a baseball fan, a sports fan, quite frankly. And it seemed like it's just a lot more pain, but than anything. But the thing is, I think I just something about this series just seemed to break me from it, almost like broke through the apathy. So I mean, I'll give them that. They from apathetic to anger again. But I think that the anger goes back to, I don't think it's fair. It's not fair that this is an organization that's taking advantage of fans who are going to tune in and going to pay attention and going to, I don't go into this season hoping, I've never gone into a White Sox season hoping that they were going to be bad. So to say, oh, well, hopefully these people get fired, or hopefully these people get fired. There's people that can do that. I've never had the ability to do that. I'm optimistic. I like to go into a season thinking, even this season, and, thinking you never know. And just the fact that we're at a point now where here we go again, but now it's even worse somehow. They have very few, despite people thinking that they're going to trade everybody, and they very well may. They don't have a lot of, it's not like they're going to get back a ton, unless they go ahead and trade a Dylan Cease and just do this all over again. But then we go back to the old thing of, well, who's making the trades? And I don't think any of us want anybody in the organization that's currently in the organization to be responsible for any returns on those trades, but they're going to get that opportunity. No accountability in the organization or under any, as we know, Jerry Reinsdorf at the helmed franchise or organization. And I don't know. I just don't think it's fair to any of us or anybody in the White Sox fandom to where it is at this point, because they just keep, I don't know, they're taking advantage of the fans. That's my long and short of it.
The tone of the season was set as well, given the fact they gave us more excuse probably than ever. And I dare say, all appearances aside here on social media, hello, I'm actually a slightly older fan than the rest of you. And so even in my fandom, I can't remember lean into a season where it was tempting to actually hate the team, or to maybe even hate the team. Did not want them to do poorly, but even given that head start with the redacted signing, with the the flaccid off season, we've had those before. This is the closest they've pushed, I think, any of us to sort of outright hatred of the team, and yet still we all showed up. We were excited on opening night. We still want the team to do well, even with that guy on the roster, even with that guy running the team, even with that manager, who's the least of the problems, I suppose. So even with us sort of already leading off first base, ready to steal the second of real disdain and maybe even actual hatred for the team, none of us felt that starting out. And actually on opening night, if I recall, it wasn't that long ago, but boy, do I feel old. And it seems like it was about a decade ago. There was actual excitement. So the fact that we had a head start toward hatred, we still didn't do that and give in. And, Malachi's brought up on podcasts, obviously Crystal as well. I think we all have, about how tempting it is to really dislike this team. And boy, we're in it now.
The most unlikable team I can ever remember. In my nearly, probably eclipsed 30 years of fandom at this point, I watched them give up a 5-run lead in one inning just today, and I'm fucking tired of it. I'm here to curse because what the fuck are we even watching? Why are we doing this to ourselves? What the fuck is Jerry Reinsdorf doing? What the fuck is Rick Hahn doing? Nobody has a fucking clue. And I think Sox fandom is just fed up. Fucking fed up. There. Shout out to Dante. I got my curse again.
Yes. Melissa, if you had Ryan in the pool, you win and you collect. Other thoughts about even how we started this season, and we all want to resist it because we're White Sox fans, right? Well, what's the point? What's the point of doing this right now if we didn't care?
Have you guys seen the meme that's the guy holding a sign and it's our expectation was low, but holy fuck. That's how I would describe this year, because
great summation.
Ryan pretty much summed it up there, but I didn't think it was going to be good. 500 I think was the bad is what I thought what would be for this team, for a contention window competing team. And no, it's actually way worse than that. We're fighting for our lives for 400 win percentage out here. So it has been tough. And watching the North Side team that has just as poor management as we do, they're not very good either. And here they are just obliterating us at our home ballpark, in honestly a really chaotically hysterical manner. There was 2 back-to-back home runs in both games. You got to be shitting me. It was unbelievable. And at a certain point, it's just kind of well, that's just how it is here. And I was at the game yesterday and I wasn't even really fazed by the second home run. And I wasn't fazed by it tonight either, because again, I just don't have many expectations for this team. But it's kind of just what the hell are you going to do going forward? Because Jerry Reinsdorf is winning no matter what. They have sold out crowd 2 nights in a row. He's winning. It does not matter if the team performed well, if they win in a walk-off, it doesn't matter. So it's just if you're going to continue forward with the same people running the team, we're going nowhere. That's my thought. Otherwise, I can't imagine the players wanting to play well for this team either. I would be apathetic as hell playing for this toxic hellhole organization. It's just what it is. That is just what it is.
It's not like losing culture is a new concept. We've heard it, and we've been leading the pack suggesting that, but now we're basically hearing it everywhere. When we hear trade rumors, the national reporters are citing losing culture, players wanting to get out of it. Lance Lynn is probably willing to take a trade to the Durham, but he might actually take a trade to the Durham Bulls if he goes to Tampa, just to get out of Chicago. And that's actually a step or two worse than even the La Russa clubhouse. Not heading in the right direction. Crystal, Zach, please step in.
I will say, just I'm glad there were other things to do in the most recent city that I traveled to see this team, because had I only went to those 2 games in New York, I would have probably wanted to die. They were so bad there. The first game was kind of fun, but they still lost. And they lost the next day, and they finally win one the day I don't actually go to the game. So honestly, it's incredibly rude, and I feel like at least my airfare should be paid for by the organization. Because why did I do that? Like, why on earth? And I convinced other people to go to this game. Like, why? That's just I hate.
You went
They were
because it's a nice new stadium. It's a stadium you haven't been to yet, and that's the only reason to go watch the White Sox at this point, feels like.
Yeah.
As somebody that is going to New York in a few days and was like, oh, it would have been nice to go see them get destroyed against the Mets. I like the Mets, but instead I'm going to go watch a minor league team because that seems a lot more fun than watching the White Sox or wherever they are right now. I'm in the car with my Cubs fan dad to make sure that I can join into this, who gets to talk trash to me the entire time because they're down 10-7 right now, despite the fact that Stroman was bad, despite the fact that this team, like, both of these teams are not good teams. The Cubs are mediocre, and he was right. He told me at the beginning of the year, the White Sox are going to be worse than the Cubs. I didn't believe it. He was right. And he gets to hear me talk about it live right now about
Dante,
right.
Kangaroo court fine for inviting a Cub fan onto the podcast at this moment. However, okay, well, respect to Papa Jones. We'll be talking to both of you at some point about this very strange family that you've raised, sir. Malachi, you cited specifically in a podcast just a couple ago your lowest moment as a White Sox fan actually did sort of kick off this terrible era of horrible feeling just this year with the redacted signing. But even then, I suppose, maybe harkening back to what I said 5 minutes ago, you're still trying to fight through it. And actually you were acknowledging that the rest of the Central Division might come to the White Sox, down to the White Sox level, and the White Sox might have a shot, while, Crystal, Tommy, even myself were a little bit more garrulous about their chances at the start of the season. You were still fighting through it. So you're not being rewarded for that.
Yeah, I definitely relate to what you said at the beginning there, Sam, where as much as I want to be apathetic and as much as I want to be pessimistic, as much as what I know to be true from, my years of observing baseball and knowing that the way the White Sox operate on a baseball level is not very smart, I still come into the season as optimistic as I can every year. I want them to do well. And there's something about this team that's a little bit different in terms of the kind of ire it rises in me and seems to be rising in other people, where, like, for the most part, I can't really even bring myself to dislike these players. Luis Robert and Eloy Jimenez are both playing well. TA has had a terrible year. Moncada has had a terrible year. A lot of these guys have had terrible years, but they have, in whatever reports might be, leaked from the management side about the clubhouse dynamic, about how the players aren't giving, a certain effort level or whatever. I find it hard to be mad at them because the dislike of this team is just more organizationally directed than I felt it in the past. There's one thing, it's one thing to put together a bad baseball team. They've put together plenty of bad baseball teams over the past 10 years where, I've been able to say, okay, this is a bad baseball team, whatever. I like baseball. It sucks that I was born into this instead of being a San Francisco Giants fan or something like that, but whatever. But there is a kind of contempt that seems to be coming from the organization, from the organization to the fans, that in my mind kind of boil over a little bit with the Clevenger signing, and particularly not even so much the signing, of course, as the way they handled the allegations and what was, he was revealed to be very concretely pretty shortly after signing him. The way they handled that, on top of the way they handled their baseball operation, the way they operate as a business on top of the way they handle other abuse issues in the past, and have been leading up to the season. It was very confusing to admit what this is. There is it feels like a middle finger from the organization in a way that just putting a bad team on the baseball field doesn't quite spur. I don't feel this way about a regular bad baseball team. It feels like we are being insulted not even so much by the play on the field, but by the fact that they operate the way they do and talk to their fans and their patrons and their business the way they do. It feels different in that way. And I'm sorry if I've been cutting in and out. I feel like my internet keeps spiking, but it's disappointing.
And the middle fingers have been getting thrown for years. You could argue that the idea of the tear down rebuild is a middle finger. Okay, let's even give a pass there. Rick Hahn at Reggie's is a middle finger. Hiring Tony La Russa is a middle finger. A difference is this team is still either clearing the decks or they're on some sort of rise. So the White Sox, not that they've earned it, but perhaps you can at least say, all right, well, you don't know where we're going yet. Talk again. I think this is one way I'll defend Hahn. I think it's sort of misused when it's repeated back, but okay, talk to him after the parade. Problem is, we're here now. We're in the middle of a contention window that's slammed shut, was probably never even really open. It's broken, destroyed. The house is burned down. So there's nothing still to grab them here. They're not making a run this season. They're not making a run next seain. Contention window is dead and gone, blown up. So even though those middle fingers have been getting thrown for a while, they're worse this year, and they feel different because there's no light at the end of the tunnel. It's all train, if not just cave in. And, that's where we're at now, and getting handed to us by the Crosstown team, just is rubbing more salt in all of these wounds that have been opening up all season long.
Game just went final. Congratulations, Rakong. Your team is 21 games under 500 at the end of July, heading up to your trade deadline.
And they're not trying to sell.
You don't want to do
That's
a full
hilarious.
rebuild because you want to contend next year. I'm sorry, Bob Nightingale. I know you got that quote from somewhere, but what the fuck? Like, this team is 21 games under 500. The farm is barren. I don't care what magical trades Rick Hahn can pull out of his ass to get himself major league ready players. This team is going nowhere. They're going to be worse next year, but yet they still want to contend. Like, do they not know that we can actually see with our eyeballs what they do? Like, we have brains and can process the things that they say. We are not as dumb as they think we are. Because for fuck's sake, we watch this shit, we analyze it, we write about it, we talk about it. This team is going nowhere and going nowhere fast, and there is no light. It's a train wreck, and we just can't look away. I mean, stop.
It's something. I was gonna say it's something we've been saying, like I've been telling people, which is, don't watch these games. They don't deserve your viewership. Let us suffer through the misery of watching the White Sox this year, because at least we write about it. And at least it gives us something to, like, we have something to say about it. We're writing about it. I have an article that's coming out this weekend talking about the fact that the White Sox don't know how to use the injured list, and the fact that this team is not competently ran. You can't even run the injured list. You can't even put Andrew Vaughn on there when he has a leg that's obviously not working the way a leg's supposed to work. He's in walking boots. But no, screw the IL. He's out for 7 days. He got been on the IL for 10 days. And you're sure that we needed Andrew Vaughn back right this second? we got Ben without Andrew Vaughn this season for 3 extra days. It's not like he's been great. And I'm a believer in Andrew Vaughn. I think he's not a bad player. I think he could develop into something. The issue is that the White Sox, like the other Jerry Reinsdorf-owned team, don't know how to develop anything, it seems like, most of the time. Like, yeah, whenever they develop something, it's luck, just pure luck. And it's tiresome, it's annoying to watch. So free yourselves. Don't watch this team. watch us. We do our jobs much better than they do their jobs. So just watch us, listen to us, read our articles, and tell Jerry, Ken, Rick, everybody that's not a player on this team to go screw themselves. I'm not cursing because, of course, I'm in a car with my dad. But yeah, like, just don't watch. Don't do it to yourselves. It is not worth it. There is no reason anybody should watch this team unless you like to enjoy suffering and pain, or you're told to watch it because for some reason you joined in 2022 and not 2021.
Preach. Hey, well, we've already the cussing is a moot point. Dante, Ryan has got us to our first half of podcast maximum already. We're going to take a quick break, even though on the live podcast you'll just see us. We're going to be moving. But on the podcast, please buy whatever the Fans First Sports Network wants to sell you. It's good stuff. I promise. We'll be back in a minute to rant more. Okay. Hey, we're back, the South Side Empaths. We are here to do the job that you should not be forced to do, namely feast your eyes on whatever it is they're putting on the field, which currently, as the late breaking news from Ryan, lost tonight, swept by the Cubs in a mercifully mini 2-game series, 398 winning percentage. That tracks to equal the 1976 White Sox. I was alive for that team, not a fan. I was alive. It's not a good team. It's not company you want to be in. That would be the 10th worst team in White Sox history. Not great. And the funny thing is, what is it? I believe in the game thread from Malachi today, we have 4 of the whatever. Give me the stats, Malachi, but it's not great. Rick Hahn uniquely presides over horrible White Sox baseball, and there is a 30-year period in the middle of White Sox history that was awful. 5 winning seasons in 30 years, and Rick Hahn is outdoing that.
Yeah, I think the number was this is probably going to finish, or this is on pace to finish, is like one of the fourth in the last 10 years of the 16 worst seasons in franchise history. This is an old franchise. They were founded in like 1901. That was a very long time ago. A lot of people didn't have electricity in the United States back then. And a full 25% of like the bottom, not even 10th, like I don't even know what it is of the worst seasons in team history have come under the Rick Hahn era. And 2 of those, they were actually trying to win. That's the thing, is that you can be the Baltimore Orioles and lose 110 games for 3 straight years. At least they did it on purpose. 2013, 2023, both teams, when they did in fact try to do something. It's just pretty unprecedented losing. I think the only other of the other, what was it, like 12 teams that are in that bottom 16, 11 of them came before, like 1970. 1976 is the only time in the last 50 years we've really we've seen seasons like we have kind of come to expect regularly over the last few years. And it's nothing short of frustrating, simply because nobody else in professional sports gets this leeway in terms of front office jobs. Nobody else in professional sports gets the opportunity to lose this much. And it's, I don't know, it's a money printing machine regardless. So it kind of leaves you at a loss as to, well, what do you do when you end up in this stasis when, there's just no reason for ownership to really care on the level that's going to root out the clear problems here. And I'll say one more thing before turning over the mic. And I think I would actually disagree a little bit with the sentiment that, there's just nowhere to go but down for this team. And I think that's part of what makes it so frustrating, is that, that 2013 team, that 2017 team, the talent on those teams was bad. They did not have players like Luis Robert or Eloy Jimenez or a healthy Tim Anderson, or the core that they do, or even, a Dylan Cease. I actually like Chris Sale. I shouldn't say that, but the payroll is at about $150 million next year. About 110 of that counts against the luxury tax. I think there's no reason we shouldn't believe that a competent GM, somebody who's like actually knows how to run an organization, who's not an insider, who has the freedom to actually reshape the organization a little bit. I don't think there's any reason someone who knows what they're doing couldn't put together a competitive roster next year. The baseline talent is there, and if you want to spend up to $200 million and even not go up to that luxury tax, there's still plenty of decent players to be found out there. The problem is that they've had that money in the past and they spend it on, Joe Kelly and Mike Clevenger and Larry Garcia. And there are better players out there that can be had for those contracts. And I think that's what's so frustrating, is that it's still there. It's still there for the taking. I don't think it's a totally foregone conclusion that this group has to be a total failure. But as long as it's the current, regime above them that is framing things and is setting them up to succeed or fail, they're only going to set them up to fail. So it's like, pounding your fists against a glass box. There's just nothing. It's there, but there's no indication that anything's going to be done about it.
That Malachi optimism came around
here too. Like, isn't he?
Oh yeah,
5 million or something. So
yeah,
it's laughable.
He's having a good retirement. It's not like he's playing against us, so I guess that's a little less insulting, I suppose.
No, here's the thing. If he was playing against us, at least he would be positively contributing to the White Sox. Like, that would probably be better than anything at this point, it feels like. Because sometimes players just suck to that level. My other thing, like, with Malachi's point of, like, this should be a good team. A competent GM could make this happen. It's just that Jerry Reinsdorf doesn't care about hiring a competent anything, it feels like. Competent GM, competent medical staff, competent first base, second base, competent base coaches, competent starting pitchers, not named abuser or the guy that sits on the IL half the season because the White Sox don't realize that Michael Kopech probably isn't a long-term starter right now. Like, there are things that any one of us, I think, and I mean this honestly, could take this team over and make this team 10 wins better than they are right now, just by using common sense, making common sense deals. Cody Bellinger shouldn't be on the Cubs. He should be a White Sox. And Andrew Benintendi should still be a White Sox. That's like the way that people were acting as if you could only sign one player. You could have signed both. The White Sox could have done so many things. And we've been talking about Jonathan India as a potential addition to this team because of the rumors and things floating around. And the more and more I think about Jonathan India, the more and more I'm like, that's idiotic. He can't play defense. It's replacing Elvis Andrus with a slightly better bat and about the same glove, if not worse. Like, that's what we're begging for at this point. We're begging for average to slightly above or slightly below average players instead of being like, we should go get dudes that can make it so this window stays open. And none of us expect the team to get anybody that's going to keep this window open next year. We all expect this team to go grab people that are going to be, at least we got second place. At least we're in third place instead of losing maybe 98, 95 games or something.
Dante, second place or third place sounds really good right now. I think we'd actually be pretty happy.
Like, this team, like, as Malky said, Luis Robert is a dude. Eloy Mendez, when healthy, is a dude. Tim Madison, when healthy, is a dude. Like, I know people are soured on some of these people because of their health, but we've seen them produce when healthy. We've seen, like, in the short end season, Eloy won a Silver Slug, if I remember correctly. That's a good chunk of time to see what he could do in a nice sample. It's not quite half a season, but hey, if he can put that stretch of time and stay healthy, you can't tell me that Eloy Mendez couldn't hit 40 home runs in a regular season if he was able to play 150 games. You can't tell me they wouldn't have 125 RBIs if he was able to play 150 games. Tim Madison, he has no home runs this year, but guess what? Once he seems to finally get fully healthy, he's starting to actually make contact with the ball. And he keeps getting these close, hard hits that get robbed or barely miss or barely go foul. Yohan yesterday almost hit a grand slam. Like, this team has dudes that could be good, but they only care about 1 through 9 for this roster. They only care about 1 through 5 for the rotation. And that's where they will always be mediocre because they don't care about fielding the rest of the players the rest of the team with competent players. Let me
Dante,
shut up for a few minutes now.
Dante, I love you like a brother, but you're sounding a little bit like your father driving next to you there. That sounds very much Cubs talk. Man, that was almost a home run. That was almost hit. I get it, and it speaks a little bit to what Malachi said. It's like, hey, listen, this isn't. I don't know the Royal. I don't what team you're talking about. Oakland.
I mean, the Royals.
Yeah,
I mean, did we barely beat the Royals in a series this year? Like, I'm not trying to sound like my dad because of like the whole he loves the Cubs thing. I'm trying to sound like
keep them on the road. I mean,
see
come
the
on
White
now.
Sox more than we. I was just like, he can see the White Sox flaws better than I could at the beginning of the season because he's looking from a different perspective, a perspective that I have grown to appreciate versus looking at the White Sox from like somewhat of a fan's view. I had this team winning 84 games at the beginning of this year. I'm an idiot for that. Having the team winning 81 games is idiotic. And they keep proving all of us right and wrong in the sense of they're proving anybody that said they sucked right, and they're proving me, Malachi, and a few others extremely wrong.
To Malachi's point about this team being, close isn't the right word, but that there's something there. The rest of you, what's your gut saying? I mean, obviously there's just so many conditionals, and Malachi, I think, even outlined them as he spoke, and Dante did as well, of all the things that won't happen, that could happen, but won't happen. But the optimism level has to be pretty low that as soon as, I mean, let's just throw out this stuff about they're still competing. That's just, what else are you going to say? I mean, that's something typed up like in April, by the communications department in case of fire. And, they're trying it out now. What are they going to say? Yeah, you should stone the park and burn it down. No, of course not. But that said, is it realistic to think, I mean, can we get on the Hayes bus here and be like, okay, yeah, all right, I can see it. Or is this really more of a sense of that it really is destined to get worse?
I think it is destined to get worse, but I just don't know exactly what worse looks like, which is kind of the disturbing thing. But
exciting but scary.
But there's a few things that came up, and the first thing that made me think about it was when Dante earlier was talking about the strange handling of the IL that the White Sox have had for the last couple of seasons. And it's that, and it's the way that they handle the offseason, and it's the way that they handle signings. There's sort of this like White Sox way of doing business that they never speak on, they never explain, they never give any kind of justification or explanation for. And if you're the Patriots, for example, and you're Bill Belichick, and you're winning championships, you can kind of be shrouded in this mystery. It's a thing that the White Sox, that's driven me crazy about the White Sox for several seasons, for basically a lifetime of fandom, which is they operate in this way where there's no accountability. But they operate in a way where they don't feel the need to explain themselves. Which again, if they were a winning organization in any way or by any metric, that could be something that, okay, fine, let them do what they're doing. But they're horrific. I mean, they're really one of the worst organizations in all of sports, not just in baseball. And so to be shrouded in this mystery and to act like they know better than the fans, or to hear, like was mentioned before, Rick Hahn over the last several seasons really go at the fans for what were legitimate concerns then, legitimate concerns now, and have always been really that. It was. And again, it wasn't that we were going to go into the season not watching the team or rooting against the team. And that's kind of goes back to that original thing I was talking about, which is Rick Hahn was making us, the fans, he was making us out to be dummies, knowing full well that we were never going to be rooting against the product. So it puts us in this position that, so Brett, to talk about what, is it going to get worse? Is there hope? I mean, yeah, Luis Robert is awesome.
Excuse me, guys.
Yeah.
We have a huge trade that might have just broke. Giolito to the Angels. Gio to the Angels has just been reported. Gio, so from what I'm saying right now from Jeff Passan, it is Lucas Giolito and Reynaldo Lopez to the Angels for Edgar Puero and left hand, that's a catcher, and then left-hander Cal Bush.
So Edgar Caro.
That's happened. Giolito to the Angels.
Wow.
All
right. Well, I'm gonna go cry now.
Yeah, same. I think I'm going. After I get home, I think I'm gonna go pour me a nice heavy drink and enjoy myself at this point, because my favorite non Tim Anderson player or Luis Robert player is gone. The guy that's been my guy for years, gone, because this team doesn't understand that you don't trade your best pitcher in the middle of a season. It might be a long season. Just fucking resign. Dude, fucking resign the guy that's proven time and time again that he is good at this. That he is, like, since 2019, he has been the most consistent pitcher on this team. Dylan Cease, yeah, he had a great 2022. And look at Dylan Cease right now. Look at 2021 Dylan Cease. Up and down. Like, but you're going to trade him. You're going to trade Lucas Giolito. And then you're going to trade Rolando Lopez, who's been one of your better relievers. I'm sorry for the amount of volume I have now, but that,
it's good news.
So idiotic.
It's good news for you, Sam. There's only one Giolito in Chicago now. So, congratulations. You made it. You outlasted him. So,
yeah.
It's a win for you.
Well, this is going to be an interesting rest of the season, I guess.
I think even Malachi will acknowledge that the cart is now easing like down the hill, at least for 2023, because, clearly, here we go. And we get to see all that talent in Charlotte now. Another bright side, of everything.
Ooh. I mean, this isn't that shocking. It kind of hurts because I love Gio, but I've been mentally preparing for this since he didn't sign that extension.
Sure.
Like, it's been obvious for a while that they were going to trade him. Can it get worse? Yeah. Who the hell are these two guys we just got from the Angels of all places? Like, I'm not up to date on other people's farm systems. But those are two names I've never heard of. Like, Jerry is probably going to want to cut costs next year, so it's not like we're going to see a heavy investment. Like, they could have re-signed their own guys, but Jerry doesn't pay pitching. There's just something toxic. Like, yes, there's talent here, but there's something so toxic. Be it bubbling over when they forced TLR on us, versus now the talent here is just not going to win. I'm actually really happy for Lucas because he's free of this now. Like, he doesn't have to put up with this shit anymore.
Good news though, Ryan. They're coming from the Angels, so they might not really know any better in terms of a clubhouse and atmosphere and ownership.
I have a bit of a hot take here, and I don't know. Maybe I'll Lucas Giolito, sentimental, cool guy, like Succession. I'm sorry that he's going to be on my favorite team, but happy for him that he'll not be on the White Sox. But I'm looking at the return. Granted, I've never heard of the guys that they got back, but the first guy is the second. Edgar Caro is the second top prospect in the Angels organization. 65.
Okay. That makes it a little easier, at least.
And the pitcher they got is the Angels' third top. I mean, listen, I actually like the return.
So, Melky, I'm going to hand it over to you, but we did speculate on this, whether Rick Hahn could make a trade that would be better than what he would get just letting Gio go, which would be pick number 45 next year, and it appears that may be the case. Can you confirm for us, Mr. Optimism yourself, Malachi Hayes?
Yeah, I think this is a good trade. Hate to say it. Edgar Caro is probably I'm not familiar with Kai Bush. His stats are not impressive. Pitching is weird. The Sox, he's 6'6". Sox like tall guys. But Edgar Caro is probably as good of a prospect as you could hope to get at this stage for 2 months of Lucas Giolito. He's a switch hitting catcher who's 20 years old in Double-A right now, hitting pretty well, above league average. He's walking more than he's striking out. A lot of people were looking at someone like Diego Cartaya and penciling him in as a potential return from the Dodgers. I think I don't think this is very far off that at all. I think they're fairly similar, and I'm very, very sad to see Lucas go. And I'm gonna drop after this so I can finish the 6-pack part of this recap and maybe get a quick little story up there. But I'm I'm not mad. I can't say I'm not like. I mean, I'm not happy to see Lucas go. Of course, it's quite sad. But given what this season is, I'm not going to say I'm unmoved by that return. I think Edgar Caro is probably a better prospect than the White Sox would have found their way into otherwise. And yeah, I can't complain too much about that right now.
Well, this is what we're all fearing, because there were folks, I think it might have just been me and you, Malik, who actually said he would do better just taking that end of second round, mid second round pick. And this is, I mean, I'm no expert at all. I'm an idiot, but this is clearly better than that. So, hey, listen, you stumble around blindly and get enough people throwing cake at you, some of it's going to end up in your mouth. And I guess maybe that's what's happened. Yeah, okay, that's the headline for the trade. Oh my goodness, we're going to have to write about a trade. This night will never end, but at least it's taken a little bit of a sunnier turn. Maliki, obviously, if you got a bump, because Lord knows that readership is very hungry for the recap and the six pack. So of course, I will honor your need to take a leave if you need to. Crystal and Christina, I need to hear from you about how you're feeling broadly, specifically tall pitcher for tall pitcher. I don't know.
Look, the trade is fine. Like, it's good, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to go cry myself to sleep tonight because, I mean, I also loved Raylo. He struggled, but he's a likable person. So yeah, I'm just going to like cry after this.
Yeah. I mean, it can't be, the crying, which you sort of penciled into the calendar somewhere around the trade deadline, there would be crying. Or perhaps, if by some weird miracle or sheer incompetence by Han, it would have been right at the end of the season when Gio declared free agency, and that's just as good as he's, of course he's gone. So this was coming. So, I mean, the shock of it, the tears are still the tears. The shock of it, I suppose, isn't, because we did obviously know this was happening way back in the nickel and dime over the next arbitration contract. So, Christine, I guess this probably wasn't a huge shock, even though I'm sure it's still a little irritating to you as well.
No, I mean, I agree with pretty much what all you guys have said. Like, there was a White Sox game scheduled tonight, so I was already planning on crying at some point. So this fits right back into the schedule. Giolito has just like come so far with this organization. Like, he literally, there was a whole commercial about how fucking bad he was in 1 year. Like, you know what I mean? And then he turned into like, a semi-side contending pitcher for at least a couple of years. He led the team when we didn't have an ace, and he was that. He had a no-hitter. It was like the vibe was so good, and he's just like genuinely a good guy. And this team has, we're fighting for good people in this organization. So when they go, it's sad when they leave. So I'm definitely, and same with Raylo. Like, he also has come such a long way. Obviously, he hasn't had a great year this year by any means, but last year when there was nobody to pitch, he was the fourth starter, and he was a good one at that. And also just like a really passionate player, and it's hard to have that leave the bullpen, and with whatever we have of this super bullpen, if you want to call it that at this point. I think it's a super broken bullpen. But I'm just kind of sad. I'm not shocked that he's gone. I'm kind of more shocked that he went to the Angels. But
I thought the other LA team
season, it really is.
I guess so. I guess
if we're gonna go somewhere, like I'm kind of cool with that. I'm fine with that. I mean, the Angels have been trying to win for so long. Maybe they'll get somewhere, maybe they won't. Who knows? But I'm just sad to see him go.
And Raylo's numbers, let's face it, if he wasn't thrown into the closing role, I mean, I don't know exactly his splits, but I do know the majority of his ugliness was under those circumstances. And I think he's really been heating up. Throwing him into this deal probably gets us that number 2 or number 3 prospect. I wouldn't overlook that, even though clearly Giolito is the headliner.
Yeah, I mean, as long as he wasn't closing, I trusted Raylo pretty much every time. Like Tina just said, he would start and he was great. He would come in as a relief and he was one that I actually trusted. So that's a huge bummer. I wish they took summer, speaking of. But
it makes for an exciting rest of the season, however, given the fact that the Super bullpen, which wasn't really all that super, but for a little spits and starts here. Anyhow.
Joe fucking Kelly.
Yeah, Joe Kelly. Joe Kelly. Where is Luke Smales when you need him to defend the Joe Kelly experience?
I feel like at this point he doesn't even want to defend Joe Kelly. Now it's just a bit because it's damn near impossible.
Could be. It could be.
Like I've had
the lines are open. Before. The lines are open, Luke.
We are all hilarious like that. But the super pen is no more because bye Ray Lowe, who somehow was already here and somehow was one of the better parts of it. Man. Like as everyone else said, I guess it's soon time to cry ourselves to sleep. Lose to the team on the north side, then lose your best pitcher and one of your best relievers, all in the span of 6 hours, not even that long.
The manner in which they lost tonight is just like the icing on the cake right now.
Yeah, it's not like we haven't seen this game this year, but yeah, I think we're seeing them with greater frequency. I think when we were speculating on what would happen this season, back when the White Sox were even making a run deeper into the 400 winning percentage arena, which they may not see again this year, there was some speculation about whether trades would even be made. And I think we all universally said, well, we don't want Hahn making them. And I suppose this may reverse that to a degree, but I suppose at the very least, this opens up the notion that more players are leaving from here. I mean, obviously Giolito was, I guess if there is a centerpiece, he is the centerpiece player who could have been traded, but Lance Lynn obviously is going somewhere, Durham Bulls or Tampa otherwise. So this isn't the last of the trades. Yeah.
No, it's absolutely not. Lynn, while not good tonight, he's going somewhere. Someone will throw a bag of balls at Rick Hahn, and they might have to eat all the money, but Lynn will be going somewhere. I wouldn't be surprised to see Kelly go. Bummer, maybe. Graveman, maybe. Jesus, I don't even know. Maybe somebody will take Redacted off their hands. I got nothing. Like I'm of the mind this might have been KW stepping up and pulling the trade off, and if that's true, like let Trader Kenny take this away. I got nothing at this point. Like I'm just thinking of updating my preview for tomorrow, and now being like, we're down 2 pictures that okay, well, This is going to be an even uglier series against Cleveland. So, woo.
It's always satisfying to burn the midnight oil over a team that's just absolutely horrible and breaks our hearts on an hourly basis. So it's going to be fun as Malachi's writing, as Crystal's writing, as I'm probably writing something. It just makes it all the more satisfying.
I like to think I like to think that like this was the game that like we were waiting for the result of the game for them to be like, all right, you know what? I don't think we're gonna, I think we're out of it this year. I could see the organization doing that. But one other thing, because we're in like hot stove season or whatever, or entering it officially now. I was just reminded because of the Nightingale tweet earlier today about Lance Lynn and all that. Just a few years ago, I guess actually several years ago now, the infamous time when the White Sox, the tweet from Bob Nightingale, where the White Sox were going to, wait a minute, potentially sign Manny Machado and Bryce Harper. You remember that? Which I always wondered. I know this is really not relevant to anything we're talking about, but I just wanted to get that in because I always wondered what was like leaked. Like what did Kenny tell Bob that led to that anyway.
Yeah.
Fun times.
I'm attempting to make assignments as we are speaking live. So other thoughts that folks have, please blurt them out. Dante, your father's probably just chuckling quietly to himself after hearing his son swear live on the internet, but
I am just very sad, and I need to take an extra Lexapro. Sam, is that allowed? Can I take 2 a day?
Let's see. I'm not going to answer.
Not to put you on the spot.
Not gonna be an actual doctor for this one, but probably deserve it at this point, just for your sanity.
As a White Sox fan, in my role as a White Sox fan,
Very
absolutely.
good.
I'm actually just going to talk.
As a
I'm gonna
doctor.
talk to my prescriber tomorrow and be like, "Hey, so I'm a White Sox fan. Can we maybe bump this up just a bit more to get me through the next
little extra something to get me through the next week? It doesn't have to be a double dosage, but you could just prescribe something additional.
Yeah.
You know, the former pharmacy tech in me was either like, I wouldn't recommend doubling up on those, but it's been a long time since I've read that prescription. So, as a White Sox fan, I say, do what you got to do.
All right, who's dispensing legal advice next?
Here's some legal advice. Don't listen to me about legal advice.
All right, well, we had a breaking trade, and we're dealing with that, which I guess cut into our overall angst, even though it just sort of brought the handkerchiefs out quicker. This probably won't be the only such thing we'll be doing in this next week or 10 days, given the fact that, well, nothing's going to be the same as trading away Lucas Giolito, and nothing's going to be the same as losing 2 straight games in embarrassing fashion to the Chicago Cubs. So in traditional fashion, doesn't have to be a speed round. Let's go around and let everybody have a final say. I would like to get a vision from each one of you of what the final 2 months of the season is going to be. You can talk front office, you can talk field, you can talk yourself as a fan, you can talk about what concession you want to try at the game, whatever it is. Give me a projection of what these 2 months are going to be that we all are going to have to live through. We're all fans and we're all active on the website called South Side Sox. And of course, we are also empaths on behalf of all of you who choose to damn your eyes, as you wisely should already have been doing before we even had to tell you. Crystal O'Keefe, I would like to start with you. What is the next 2 months going to be like for you?
A bloodbath.
Simple. Classic. Yes. Okay. Bloodbath. Malachi Hayes, would you like to throw in with a thought on what these 2 months are going to be for you? Are you just going to be marking the calendar until our new AA catcher who switch hits and seems like an awfully fine fella comes up and plays for the White Sox, which could, by the way, be like Friday, but what's the 2 months going to be like for you?
There's going to be a lot of games and moments where in 10 years from now, God forbid we're still here, we're going to be watching a game and there's going to be a highlight like 10 years ago this happened, and I'm going to see the name on the back of the pitcher's jersey. I'm going to be like, holy shit, that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Oof, those were some times, huh? It's going to be a lot of what I remember, 2017 to be like. That's my
yeah. Or all those guys we've forgotten about from 2013. Like, oh my God, that guy played for the White Sox.
Oh, Pelfrey? Wow, that was a time, man.
Exactly. Well, Dylan Covey probably can. His shoulder probably is still somewhat intact, so who knows? Dylan! Another Dylan. Christina, what is the next 2 months going to be like for you, aside from your dutiful work and your great attitude and the way that you brighten all of our lives here at Southside Sox? But besides that, in those moments when, you have to put the tragedy mask on, because I'm guessing it's going to have to do with the next 2 months for you.
I don't know what kind of performance we're going to get on the field. I'm just going to assume it's going to be subpar at the best. But I think we're probably going to see a lot of random people trying to play right field and second base, because that seems like the only thing that we do around here. So Jake Berger, you want to play right field, and we might as well test it at this point. If Andrew Benintendi wants to try to play a left-handed second base, we can test that out. Why not? So who knows? I think they should probably just start actually playing the AAA guys that they have been trying to maybe test, because, if that's not what they're doing already, there's not going to be any players left. So I don't know. I don't really care how they perform right now. I think if they're going to – today was a very entertaining way to lose. So was yesterday, I suppose, if you're going to put it that way. in the way that our lives are already so sad that sure, I'll watch the team beat us really badly at our own home park.
We went from going for it to fun bad in the space of not just a season, but what
We're
2/3
so
of a season?
bad that it's
Unbelievable.
Just like, whatever.
It really is unbelievable. Okay, Ryan. Aside from the cussing, because clearly there is going to be more cussing coming over the next couple months. So beyond that, what do you anticipate the next couple months for you to be?
A shit show. I mean, I'm completely deflated right now. I literally have nothing. I'm expecting a sweep at the hand of Cleveland this weekend, and if this roster is intact, I mean, who knows? Like, I expect plenty more embarrassing sound bites from Pedro, more lackluster play. I'm calling it now. This team is losing 100 games, and it'll be like it won't even be in doubt. It's just going to be ugly. Yeah. Like, if we thought the first half was ugly, hold on to your butt. It's ugh.
Yeah, they're peering over right now into the 10 worst teams in White Sox history. They're peering over, and I think this trade gives them a pretty strong step into that. And yeah, whether it is exactly 100 or not, anywhere close is going to get them into 10 worst territory. So they might not be able to get out of that. They might not get north of 400 winning percentage again. It could be bleak. Sam Sherman, well, what's it going to be like for you? How you got 2 months to the end of the season. We've all marked our calendars. I think we circled the last day of the season. Oh, I don't know if we're honest. Pretty much after about the first couple series of the season, just out of curiosity, just to know when the season ends. And now we've been bolding it and highlighting it. But there's still 2 months. So where are you at? How are you going to fill that time?
I'm excited because you got a team now that's on pace to have, you got to think of potentially the number 1 overall draft pick in next year's MLB draft. Perfect ammunition for Han to trade years down the road when they kick off whichever rebuild that will be. Prospect that surely will that they will not re-sign once that opportunity comes, especially if they're a pitcher. Honestly, like this is just I don't blame anybody for having any feelings right now around the sadness about Lucas leaving or about other or Reynaldo or other players that may go over the next before the trade deadline. But what this season and what the last few seasons have done to me is like I'm just like I don't care. Like, get rid of everybody. I don't, other than Luis Robert. I really like watching him. He's a superstar. But other than that, I mean, I say trade everybody. I don't care. I have no real emotional attachment to at this point to basically anybody on the roster. It's like I even am at the point where it's like I know you don't want to like call for fire and you don't want like to hope somebody loses their job, but like fire Grifol. It's not his fault in the sense of maybe it's a couple of games here or there. But I don't know. I still want him fired. It's like I don't care. I just I want this like I want like an exorcism of I think there's a new exorcism movie coming out in like it's pretty soon. I want an exorcism of the Chicago White Sox, and if that starts with just getting rid of the players to then maybe at some point something happens which would facilitate a sale or something. I don't want to speculate on what would lead to that, but I will just say that like whatever. I mean, if anything, this adds some interest for me for the rest of the year, for the rest of the next week to see what else they do. Because yeah, as far as the product on the field, it's gonna be rough.
As a good producer, I just looked it up, Sam, and in fact, it is Exorcism 13, Exorcism of the White Sox. That is actually the subtitle. So it should be sort of good, especially if it involves the. All right, well, let's not get violent. Okay, well. All right, through the magic of something, Dante has teleported home. I don't know that he has poured his big stiff drink quite yet, but he did have to deal with being in a car with his Cubs fan father, which was probably painful. Probably calls for a double, Dante. So you have permission. But what's the next? What's between now and the end of the season? How you feeling? What are your plans? What's
all right? So. For me, it's just like I know I've gotten like a bit of a rep of being the one that's negative about this team sometimes, with some of my articles dumping on this team, the occasional person that comments on the podcast saying I'm a little negative. I just want to say I was right in this one. I was right for this one when
Don't
I
feel
was, so it's all good. I expect a lot of days where if I'm doing Bird app, I'm going to be yelling at my computer screen. Expect a lot of days of just not even paying attention to this team if I'm at work instead of my usual checking in every once in a while. Just checking like every 30 minutes to see what the score is and see if Luis Robert hit a home run. Like that's the only thing I'll be checking to see how many home runs can Luis Robert hit this year. I like congrats. This game is going. I mean, this team has made it so much easier for me to just watch other teams. I'll be catching Lucas Giolito's first start with the Angels if I can. I'll be watching this because it'll be at least he's gonna be somewhere with Shohei Ohtani. At least Mike Trout should eventually make it back. I don't know if he'll have power anymore because he got the Andrew Benintendi injury, but it'll be very interesting to see just what happens. Also, we got Giolito and Gio Urshela that could be his catcher. So that's a little cute thing.
See, look how desperately Dante is trying to be positive about the remainder of the season. Hey, listen, if you don't think we read your comments and listen to them, aside from the guy who continues to write from Facebook that Kenny Williams should be fired, because, all right, this is why we don't open up to all the different social media.
Yeah, we don't touch his Facebook one. But Tim Anderson, you are a something that's not in Chicago. Lance Lynn, you are a Durham Bull. Andrew Benintendi, you are a New York Yankee. I can see them making that trade because this franchise is just they're full of surprises now. I guess they are full of surprises. Oh wait, they're not all surprises because we all said Giolito's been getting traded before the season started if this team wasn't good.
Yeah, it feels bad, and not to speak to Rick Hahn and his Reggie's sticking his tongue out and acting like a child about all of us rooting for the rebuild to fail, because none of us were. What kind of idiot? You're not a White Sox fan. Even now, we're not rooting for them to fail. I think I can speak to what Sam said, that there's a numbness at this point, and I think there's also a guilt by association. I am sorry that if you're wearing a White Sox cap right now, you do somehow bear some of the guilt and the angst that we're all feeling. I'm sorry that Rick Hahn did that to you. I'm sorry that maybe even Pedro Grifol did that to you. But it's happened. And so, yeah, it's hard to feel too upset about anything that is still to come, as we have to still withstand 2 months of the season. And this is, we've said this many times in print and on podcast, this is what you've done to us, White Sox. This is what you've done to us, Rick Hahn. These are dedicated fans. Even if we've come to the team recently, we root like hell. We root 100% or more for this team. We wanted to see a window of contention. We weren't waiting for it to break or slam shut or get weatherproofed. This is a bad news situation we're in, and you did this. We didn't do this. We're just rooting for this team still to do something and be something. And if that's 2024, we're not going to be unhappy about it. We're going to be really pleased, stunned, shocked, and we're going to have some of what she's having, but we're going to be pleased. So that's what we're still rooting for, even as we see this trade for Giolito, and it seems like it might be a decent one. Hey, it's about time. Maybe we got a tiny bit of good news, even though it's enveloped in sadness and badness. We'll probably do this again. It won't necessarily be when Dr. Sam says, you know what, we got to have some therapy, but it could very well. I mean, he has that power. He has the special button. When he presses it, the alarm goes off in all of our homes. We say, all right, let's assemble, because you folks out there need it. We need it. I mean, frankly, whether we have viewers, whether we have listeners, we need this. So thank you, Sam, for calling it. And I hate to say it, but we'll be doing it again sooner than you're ready for it, and sooner than any of us are expecting. Probably nothing as much of a gut punch, he says, just waiting for the next gut punch, as Lucas Giolito being dealt after a Cubs loss. But I guess we're all just braced. Thank Thank you, Crystal, for juggling this while writing. Maliki for juggling while writing. Sam coming in from the cold and hanging with us. And deciding that unless you are typing in all the comments about firing Kenny Williams, and I know you're not. Christina Erdo, thank you for joining us. We need you here even more often. We miss you. We need the spirit. It's good vibes. It's good vibes, volume 2. Jackie Crystal, where you at? And Dante Jones, I don't know what's going on with these transportation combinations, et cetera. But thanks for making it. Ryan, thank you for keeping our cuss quotient up, because that was necessary. Let's not pretend it wasn't necessary. That was really crucial here. And you helped us you helped us fill the swear jar 2 minutes in. So that's important. That's important. And Melissa's happy. So thanks. Any of you who decided to listen, watch, whatever, we'll do it again and again. As I always say, probably much sooner than you're ready for us. But unfortunately, strap it down, because more's coming. The hellfire has just begun to rain. The season doesn't end until the cusp of October. It seems a long way away. Believe me, it's going to feel a lot longer than it seems right now. Thanks everybody for joining in, and we'll be back sometime soon. We got no choice.